Greetings, friends. It's me, Wayman, and I want to come on and do a quick review of Bart Ehrman's How Jesus Became God. Excellent book. Quite a few people don't like Ehrman. Fundamentalists hate him because he came out and gave introductory books on biblical criticism. So, everyday Joe Schmo was introduced to biblical criticism in a fairly decent way, in a way that before this they haven't really been introduced to the topic, meaning that biblical scholars used to argue about this stuff, but the public never really got interested in it until Bart Ehrman's book Misquoting Jesus flew off the shelves. Everybody used it against each other. Muslims use it against Christian theology. Atheists use it against the evangelicals. Evangelicals use it against each other. But then he came out with the book, the one about Jesus. Did Jesus exist? And he wrote against the mythics. Can't say that. Made everybody mad. So now the atheists, because of that, really don't like him. And the mythics, they don't like him. But I do. As far as introductory to theology and all that. Early church history, I have some of his readers. He does translations of text. Excellent stuff. So if you're a beginner and you want to learn early church history, that sort of thing, as an introductory to it, he's very good at doing that. Does he slant it? Oh, you bet. It's like the Leaning Tower of Pisa, right? But so do all the other biblical scholars, and it's awesome. So in this book, How Jesus Became God, the Exaltation of the Jewish Preacher from Galilee, he goes through all the different types of theological ideas, from how that happens to people, hero worship. He does some outside comparisons, and then he gets into early church theology of the early biblical groups, the early Christianities, because there wasn't only just one, right? Later they would like this to make us think that there was only just one, but not the case at all. It ends up looking like this. In short, the book is like this. This is Christian theology. This is Christian Christology on who they believed Christ was in the early Christianities. Paul's. So whenever you see these letters written, a lot of times they're written against other groups. 1 John's written where we find the first views of the Antichrist. They were just people who left his community who viewed Christ in different ways than the community of 1 John. Johnian communities, very much different than Paulian communities. Look at this, man. So they pull and tug. Some might come apart. The knots get tighter, right? 4th or 5th century, they start working out orthodox. You got a big ball of yarn. It's nasty. So the confessionals and early church prayers are mainly statements about faith against other groups. So when you have a statement about faith, that's saying that you believe in all those things, but not the other subtleties. And believe me, they were splitting hairs. And then they were splitting hairs of hairs, hairs of hairs of hairs of hairs. You could be Orthodox one day, 10 years later, 5 years later, the very next day, you could be labeled a heretic. So, Bart Ehrman, in this book, How Jesus Became God, gets into that a little bit. So, excellent book. I really enjoyed it. And if you really want to know the mess behind a person who becomes deified, discusses a little bit about the Roman imperial cult and how that worked, how heroes are viewed. We still do it today. I had another book I was reading too. Kind of goes along with this whole thing. It's on the Antichrist. 1 second, I'll get it. So I was in a chat, and we were talking about Christian groups writing against one another. So Paul was writing against one, James writing against Paul. Paul's writing against early Christian groups. Luke is writing against some of the Pauline theology, some of the Markian theology. Matthew's correcting some of Luke's. It's just a huge ball. It's all a big mess, right? So we got talking about the Antichrist in a group chat with Brother John, and Armin was there, and everybody was there. Some of you would not know her, just being a viewer, but some of you would. And 2,000 Years of the Antichrist, Human Fascination with Evil. This is a really good book by Bernard McGinn, McGinn. A little bit older, but it's before the year 2000, so a lot of apocalyptic literature's come out since then. They don't stop, friends. They just keep pumping this stuff out. There's no end to it. People doing math, people predicting. It's insane, right? So here's a book, a little bit about that. And in this book, they talked about 1 John and how Christian communities, like Bart Ehrman says in his book, divide and split, label each other antichrist, anti-popes, antichrist popes, however you say it, and turns into this mess. So, just when you think you have it all worked out, it's not. Christology was being built in the earliest documents of the New Testament. It was being built in the earliest movements of Christianities, and it's still being built today, Christology, with every sermon. So if people say, oh, I got the truth, the whole truth, try not to laugh until your sides ache, right? It's really what they're saying. One strand of this was separated from the ball. That's all. So some of it gets tight. Then all of a sudden, what do you have? All these guys are true, right? They duke it out with one another. Amazing stuff. So there you have it, friends. See if you can get that book by Ehrman. It's not bad. I think it should be coming out in paperback. Also, Ehrman has some new books coming out. I'll post them down there. Some new projects he's working on. I just like them as an introduction. And like I was saying, the translations and the work that he does in translating the text. And it's kind of liberal views because he's a historian. He's not an apologist. And friends, an apologist is nothing more than an evangelist disguised as a philosopher, historian, science. You know, they get all this junk, right? Doesn't make sense at all. But in the same way, he still has a lot of evangelical tendencies to think the way that he does. He floats towards that a little bit, I've noticed. But I don't think everybody can be fair and square in some of these hypotheses. It's all speculation, right? And depending on what group you're from, where you come out from, your education, all that influences how you view things around you and what you study and what you learn, right? And religion's part of that. So, an amazing book, and I'm partially through the other on the Antichrist I showed you. So, be well, friends, and remember, if everybody's thinking alike, then somebody isn't thinking.